All right, I think we're live. Hey everyone, today we're going to be diving into DOGE because, as Elon Musk has said, the most entertaining outcome is also the most likely. What is it? The Department of Government Efficiency was created to streamline operations, cut waste, and make the wheels of bureaucracy spin a little smoother. Government efficiency is kind of an oxymoron, and that's why we've got DOGE. And DOGE has been making headlines lately for its ambitious goals and controversial strategies. So let's get right into it by looking at some posts on X. So this was the original post by Donald Trump, or this statement from November 12th. I am pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, working in conjunction with the American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency. Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for Trump's administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies. This is part of Trump's Save America movement. And potentially this is the Manhattan Project of our time. That is pretty awesome. Republican politicians have dreamed about the objective of DOGE for a very long time to drive this kind of drastic change. Department of Government Efficiency will provide advice and guidance from outside the government and will partner with the White House and Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform. I look forward to Elon and Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency and at the same time making life better for all Americans. I won't read the whole statement, but you get the idea. So November 12th, Trump announces DOGE, which sounds pretty awesome. And then in other comments and posts, Elon talks about how he thinks that we can actually reduce the federal budget by at least $2 trillion per year. So if they can do that, that solves our deficit completely. I mean, that combined with a little bit of growth, and we no longer accumulate $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. Another statement by Elon Musk: all government spending is taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. So if you're like most Americans, you're fed up with all these random BS things that the government's wasting our tax dollars on. 2024, the NIH spent $1.8 billion studying racism. And these include things like examining anti-racist healing in nature, perceived racism, cardiovascular disease risk, and then $516,000 on the effects of racism on brain and pathways to health disparities. I don't know what any of this stuff has to do with solving and making people healthier, but it's certainly wasting a lot of money to the tune of $1.8 billion. The California high-speed rail project, originally projected to cost $33 billion, now projected to cost over $88 billion. And originally it was supposed to complete in 2020. And as of today, 0 passengers have been transported. So just unbelievable examples of government waste. So November 22nd, Elon Musk is talking about how DOGE will reprogram the base code of the Matrix. So what he's saying is they're going to fix the Matrix. So the U.S. economy is like the Matrix. And the coolest part about this is he's going to have weekly DOGE updates via live stream. And he's already created Department of Government Efficiency X handle at DOGE. So go ahead and follow at DOGE to keep up with the latest updates. But I imagine this is where they're going to stream all of that good information, letting us know and maintain complete transparency on how they're getting rid of the waste. Let's see. On November 14th, so he said neither of us are being paid, meaning Vivek and himself. Of course, they're both billionaires. They don't need money. DOGE will do great things for the American people. Let history be the judge. And I can't wait to see this. Starting to feel like the DOGE has real potential. That's 4 days after this was announced. The goal of DOGE is to speed run fixing the federal government. Requires many anomalies in the matrix. So Elon is a gamer. I'm a gamer. I love video games. I've grown up with video games. The whole point of video games is you're always getting better. You're always getting faster. And Elon is the most competitive person probably that there is, especially when you consider the fact that he's a billionaire and he's got like a dozen companies he's got to manage at the same time. It's pretty insane. So another post, Department of Government Efficiency. This is from September 12th. So this is just talking about how this is a conceptual initiative aimed at streamlining government operations, reducing waste, and enhancing the effectiveness of public services through audits, technology implementation, and the adoption of private sector efficiency. So this is just going into a little details on how they're going to do that. The day after the announcement, so Austin Alfred, the awkward part of the Department of Government Efficiency is how much of the federal government exists for the purpose of giving people jobs. In many cases, the waste wasn't an accidental byproduct. Hiring a ton of people and spending a ton of taxpayer money was the goal. So it's just a jobs program. We're essentially paying people to hang out, and many of these people are working from home since COVID. And we finally have a Department of Government Efficiency run by a guy who tweets faster than Congress moves. Get ready for policy updates in meme format and budget cuts via poll. So Elon is famous for polls. He had a poll before he went and bought Twitter. And of course, people voted for him to buy Twitter. And it's probably the greatest thing that he could have done with his money. So just imagine that. Having votes, should we get rid of the Department of Education, for instance? I'm a big believer that we should get rid of the Department of Education, but with all the hundreds of government agencies, there's probably going to be a whole bunch of them that we'll be learning about as they dismantle those, and that's going to be pretty awesome. Going down to the official DOGE handle on X, so 100 billion in estimated improper payments to Medicare and Medicaid in 2023. Just so many examples of government waste. Here's an example or a screenshot just showing how much money the government pulls in, so $4.5 trillion, and how much we spend, so $6.2 trillion basically. And then, of course, the deficit is the difference between those two numbers. So if we can reduce the deficit by $2 trillion, like Elon is talking about, then we can get rid of this deficit, and then we can get the total debt under control, at least stop it from increasing, and then hopefully even start paying it down so we can get it to a manageable level. And we could go on and on. There's a lot of posts here about government waste. 90% of Fed's office space in DC going to waste. Let's see some of the headlines. So this was from November 12th, and this is from Axios. Trump announces Musk will lead the new Department of Government Efficiency. So this is just giving a little summary and providing some of the facts. Trump described the new department as potentially the Manhattan Project. So that is really awesome. Saving $2 trillion a year. I could see how that could be compared to the Manhattan Project. Musk and Ramaswamy, a wealthy investor, biotech entrepreneur, won't have any power to implement changes. So that's correct. But they will be providing advice and recommendations to Donald Trump, who has tremendous power once he enters the White House as president of the U.S. So they've got 4 years to really cut all of the waste that we've got going on in our government. And since Trump's already had 4 years in office, I think he's got a good idea of the levers that he can pull in order to get things done. So this is just talking about Musk having a lot of companies already. So you can tell Axios doesn't really like the idea of government efficiency, but essentially they provide some of the facts when that announcement was made. So November 18th, here's an article by prospect.org. The Department of Government Efficiency is inefficient. So there's been a lot of criticism. I think it's largely by people that are worried that all of this wasteful spending is going to be cut off. So people benefiting from this wasteful spending, they're going to start losing a big portion of their revenue. So they don't like that. They're gonna start pushing a lot of misinformation and disinformation about what Elon is trying to do. Okay, getting back, Department of Government Efficiency is inefficient. And the Revolving Door Project, a prospect partner, scrutinizes the executive branch and presidential power. So they say last week Donald Trump announced the self-christened first buddy, Elon Musk, will head a newly established DOGE. So you can see they're already taking a jab at Elon Musk. Alongside Vivek Ramaswamy, the assignment's an obvious reward for Musk's extensive support. So now they're painting this as Trump is rewarding Musk by giving him all this power and control for supporting him through the election. And I don't know how much of that is true, but regardless, this is going to be great for America. And then they mention that Musk's company or companies were promised $3 billion in contracts. And it's important to keep in mind that all of the contracts that Musk's companies have gotten are competitive bid contracts. So the government is saving money by using Elon Musk's companies. And a great example is SpaceX, because Boeing is just spending billions and billions of dollars, and they're not even able to get their rocket ship back from the ISS. Whereas Elon's SpaceX has made something like over 20 trips back and forth, and they're at half the cost of Boeing. But anyway, so you can see prospect.org really doesn't like government efficiency. Going to Reuters, so this was released the day after the announcement, November 13th. Trump names Elon Musk to lead government efficiency. So they will lead the government efficiency department. DOGE intended to dismantle bureaucracy, cut regulations, restructure agencies. That's kind of what Donald Trump had said in his statement. And let's see if they say anything controversial. So they'll pave the way for the Trump administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies. Trump said the new department will realize long-held Republican dreams and provide advice and guidance from outside the government. So, signaling Musk and Ramaswamy would be informal without requiring Senate approval, and allowing Musk to remain the head of Tesla, X, and SpaceX, and all of his other various companies that he's involved with. A new department would work with the White House and Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform. And that is important, especially if we're going to save $2 trillion a year from the budget. The work would conclude by July 4th, 2026. So that is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So that date's got a lot of meaning. July 4th, 2026. That's a date to remember. And then talking about Musk giving millions of dollars to the Trump presidential campaign. Let's see what some of these other news outlets have said. So this one, Trump's Department of Government Efficiency will ironically require 2 men to run it. Well, yeah, to dismantle trillions of dollars of wasteful spending, it's going to take a lot more than 2 men. They're going to hire probably thousands of people to start auditing all of the corruption and bloat in our government. And this is just an obvious jab at Elon and Vivek and the whole idea of DOGE, which is ridiculous. So you can see Fortune doesn't like the idea of government efficiency. They don't like Elon. They don't like Vivek. And this is behind a paywall, so we'll skip the rest of this article. So this article is from Politics, Scripps News, and let's see if there's a date. So November 21st. How much will President-elect Trump's Department of Government Efficiency change the country's federal government? Elon and Vivek are revealing new details about how it'll work. Under Trump's proposal, they would not work in any official government capacity. Instead, DOGE would work outside of the federal government. It advised the White House and the Office of Management and Budget on how to move forward. So again, we said they've got a lot of power, but not in an official capacity. But considering how close both of those men are to Trump, I think it's just as good. In an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Musk and Ramaswamy wrote that the department intends to work with embedded appointees in agencies to identify the minimum number of employees required at an agency for it to perform its constitutionally permissible and statutory mandated functions. Because that implies layoffs, Musk and Ramaswamy said employees whose positions are eliminated deserve to be treated with respect. So one of the cool things is Elon has proposed a very gracious kind of payment, so or layoff. So basically paying these guys for as long as 2 years just to stop working for the government and go find another job. So that's an incredibly generous severance. And if he does that, I think a lot of government employees won't be so sad that they're losing their gravy train, to speak. Now, what does the Washington Post have to say? So it looks like this is also behind a paywall. What we know about Trump's Department of Government Efficiency: operate outside government, provide the White House advice on cutting spending. So that was kind of already stated in the previous article. How about Newsweek? So this was published on November 13th, so the day after. And it looks like it's just rehashing exactly what Trump's already stated. So Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, threw millions of dollars at the campaign. Said he planned to create a government efficiency commission at the suggestion of Musk. That's what Trump said. And then Musk said DOGE efficiency, actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency. And that's what we see here. And he's already stood up the X account to share all of those details. And let's see if there's anything else interesting in here. So So Ramaswamy, who was one of the presidential nominees before dropping out and endorsing Trump, he said, "We will not go gently." Ramaswamy made slashing government spending a key part of his presidential run, including vows to cut the FBI, Department of Education, NRC. So these are all giant wins for the U.S. Here's a post from Elon Musk. All actions of DOGE will be posted online for maximum transparency. Anytime the public thinks we are cutting something important or not cutting something wasteful, just let us know. We will also have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining. One thing to note about Elon, he's incredibly hardcore. So at Tesla, one of his tenets was you should delete enough parts, and maybe this was SpaceX, but it applies to both SpaceX and Tesla. Delete enough parts that you'd have to bring back at least 10% of those. So basically delete so many things that you end up breaking something, and then you have to bring back 10% of the things you deleted. And if you're not doing that, then you're not deleting enough stuff. And it looks like that's exactly what his plan is for Doge. They're going to delete enough things that it's going to be very disruptive in a few areas, and they're going to have to reverse course on at least some of the things that they're going to delete. And to get rid of $2 trillion, they're going to have to delete a lot. So that means they're going to have to bring back 10% of what they delete, at least. Going into The Guardian. So this was an article. Let's see if they have a date on here. So this was published November 13th, it looks like. And just rehashes the same thing. Trump said their work would conclude by July 4th, 2026, adding a smaller, more efficient government would be a gift to the country on the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Because that's really what the Declaration of Independence was, to get away from the insane bureaucracy of the UK and get away from that and be able to do our own thing. But now we've got a monstrous bureaucracy that it's probably bigger than anything else in the world right now, so it really needs to be pruned, and I'd like to see them take a chainsaw to it like Javier Milei did with Argentina. Let's see. No government experience. In my opinion, that is a very good thing. Push for cost cutting in the corporate sector. After building a stake in the struggling online media firm BuzzFeed, he urged the company in May to cut staff and hire conservative commentators like Tucker Carlson. And this is talking about Ramaswamy. Musk, speaking to reporters last month, stated a goal of reducing government spending by $2 trillion. Practically speaking, experts say these cost cuts would result in deregulation and policy changes that would directly affect Musk's universe of companies. So this includes Tesla, SpaceX, X, and Neuralink. Yeah, that would be a great thing for his companies. And he posted recently about how he couldn't get a tunnel drilled under a river in Texas because it was a federal river. And he's been waiting on a permit for that for 2 years. And that's just because of our inefficient government. So adding government portfolio to Musk's plate could benefit the market value of his companies. Yep, so the richest man in the world will continue to get richer. Although you could argue people like Putin or Saudi Arabia king are actually the richest people in the world. Their wealth, though, is not transparent at all, so it's hard to say exactly what they are worth. But somebody that can actually raise armies and go to war clearly has more wealth than Elon Musk. Elon Musk's appointment was criticized by Public Citizen, a progressive consumer rights NGO that challenged several of Trump's first-term policies. Musk not only knows nothing about government efficiency and regulation, his own business have regularly run afoul of the very rules he will be in a position to attack. This was co-president Lisa Gilbert. So that's just people trash-talking Elon. He's single-handedly pretty much saved Tesla from bankruptcy multiple times. And largely that was by going in and just slashing and burning and deleting things that were adding cost unnecessarily. And now Tesla is the only company that's actually the only EV car maker that's actually profitable. No one else can make EVs at a profit. So if Musk can do that with electric vehicles, I have a lot of faith that he's going to be able to fix our government, or fix at least a lot of the problems in our government. Clearly, he's not going to be able to solve everything. This is a leviathan that is too large for any individual. But if anyone can make progress solving this, it's going to be Elon Musk. All right, so this one is CBS News. What to know about Trump's Department of Government Efficiency. So this was 2 days after the announcement. Donald Trump is vowing to reduce wasteful spending. Appointments announced by Trump on Tuesday raise a host of questions. So CBS is very anti-Trump, so they're going to be attacking them kind of no matter what. Speaking Thursday at Mar-a-Lago, Ramaswamy thanked Trump for making sure that Elon and him are in a position to start mass deportations of millions of unelected federal bureaucrats out of D.C. bureaucracy. And I know one of the things they said they're going to do is start moving these agencies to kind of middle of nowhere in the middle of our country. and that's going to literally drain the swamp. That's going to get rid of all of the, or at least it's going to make it harder for the lobbyists. And they've got, I don't know, some of the richest neighborhoods in the country right there. And it's essentially a bunch of leeches on the back of our government, which is basically on the backs of the U.S. taxpayers. And until we turn that spigot off, it's just not going to be good. So if we move those guys out of D.C., that's going to be awesome. And I don't know if you've got to know Elon yet, but he does bring a chisel. He doesn't bring a chisel, he brings a chainsaw. And we're going to be taking it to the bureaucracy from Ramaswamy. It's going to be a lot of fun. The announcement comes a week after Trump won a second term, and that was an awesome election. I was super stoked to see the results. Even though I was thinking that Trump was going to be elected, everything seemed to point towards Trump having the advantage. But there was a lot of left-leaning newspapers saying Kamala was going to easily win. And it turns out they were just lying. They were just straight up lying to us, which is a good thing. Frankly, it does need to be done again. So every few decades, you need to look at everything. Yeah, though the bureaucracy will come back, but I think it's going to take a very long time to rebuild this bloated, corrupt system that is our government. So hopefully they can also put in a plan in place that every few decades we automatically initiate some sort of massive audit. Kamark harbors reservations about Musk and Ramaswamy's mandate, especially after the former recently suggested he could find more than $2 trillion in savings through programs including Social Security and Medicare, while discretionary spending is largely spent on defense. Yeah, I mean, that is insane. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be Elon Musk. But he's also the guy that fired 80% of Twitter, and then Twitter ran better afterwards. And just apply that to all of our government bureaucracy. Fire 80% of everybody. Get rid of some of these agencies. And it's suddenly, they're going to run smoother. They're going to run better. They're going to stay out of the way of business, or at least more so, because we've got to slash the regulation. It's just killing America. Trump announced DOGE on Tuesday, describing it as an effort to slash excess regulations. Here's a comment about where the name DOGE came from. So, Musk has classically supported Dogecoin, and he's been kind of posting memes about that for years. So, it's just also a joke. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Again, the most entertaining option is the most likely. Trump said Musk and Ramaswamy will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026. So the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That is awesome. And then, can DOGE actually cut federal spending? Per CBS, basically saying no, it's not a real agency, but they will have the ear of the president and the office of the budget. So they have a lot of power. They're gonna be getting rid of a lot of stuff. Maybe not directly, but all they have to do is say, hey, we need to get rid of this agency, and then have Trump sign the paperwork. And then, of course, we've got the Senate and Congress all become Republican now. So everybody's on the same team. So if they need something to go through Congress or through the Senate, that is easily doable at this point. Yeah, this is talking about prior administrations have tried to cut costs, but the deep state and all of the government bureaucracy always gets in the way. And that's, of course, you've got a tremendous amount of entrenched individuals who will kick and scream all the way to losing their paycheck. But Elon and Vivek and Trump, they don't take payments from any of these guys. They've got their own money. They're wealthy beyond imagination, so they can't be paid off. So I don't think the same issues that have kind of hindered this in past decades will play here. Let's see, going into VOA. So this was November 18th. Department of Government Efficiency faces daunting task. And that is 100% true. If they're going to get rid of $2 trillion in waste, that is a monumental task. And they've got 2025 and about half of 2026. So a year and a half to do this. Which, if they're successful, this is going to set up all Americans to have an incredibly prosperous future. Department of Government Efficiency, despite its name, will likely be an advisory committee, so that's obvious. Operations name can be reduced to the acronym DOGE. Is a product of Musk's sense of humor, and it's also awesome. Big promises. In a statement announcing the creation of DOGE, Trump said it will pave the way for his administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies. So this is key. If they can do this, every American's life is going to get better, except for the untold thousands of government employees that are getting a paycheck for essentially doing nothing or worse than nothing. They just get in the way of people that are actually making this country great. Musk has publicly speculated that it should be possible to identify $2 trillion in potential cuts. So we're hearing the same thing over and over and over again. He's going to cut $2 trillion in spending. The budget is $4.4 trillion, or the revenues are $4.4 trillion. Spending is $6.1 trillion. So about 1.7 trillion deficit a year. If they can cut $2 trillion out of our spending, then all of a sudden we've got a credit of hundreds of billions of dollars that we can use to pay down that debt. First since Reagan, organizations that press for closer oversight of federal spending were cautiously optimistic about the creation of DOGE. Tom Schatz, president of Citizens Against Government Waste, told VOA that DOGE will be the first significant and comprehensive private sector review of the federal government since President Ronald Reagan created the Grace Commission, and that was in 1982. How impactful it will be will ultimately depend on a number of factors outside the Commission's control. It all depends on what President Trump does with the recommendations. But it takes leadership and really Congress in many cases to carry out the recommendation. I mean, that's true, but the executive branch has the power to reduce headcount. So even if they can't get rid of these agencies directly, they can reduce the headcount, and I'm sure there's a ton of things he can do. In a statement released after Trump announced the creation of DOGE, Maya McGinnis, president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, praised the idea behind the effort, but warned it would take bipartisan cooperation to see real change implemented. See, here's this image. In this photo, Tesla and Elon Musk and Vivek both have been tapped ahead. Okay, so this is just a picture of Elon and Vivek. Massive budget. The commission overseen by Musk and Ramaswamy will be applying its scrutiny to a federal budget in which much of the government outlays are dedicated to what is known as mandatory spending. Mandatory spending is made up of payments that the government is obligated to, by law, to make, and in 2023 that accounted for 3.8 trillion of the 6.1 trillion budget. But I don't know if you see what I see there. That means 2.3 trillion are not mandatory, and Musk is talking about saving 2 trillion. So that still holds muster. It still seems possible. Largest single line item was the 1.3 trillion paid out by Social Security, federal program that income to retirees, and Trump has said that he's not going to cut Social Security. So those guys don't need to worry about that. Although I don't trust that Social Security is going to be able to fund us in my retirement. So that's like 20 years away. But with that said, if our future is as prosperous as they're making it out to be, maybe they will be able to completely fund Social Security, and that will no longer be an issue at all, as long as the next administration doesn't dismantle all the great work that Elon and Vivek and Trump are doing with these next 4 years. Second major category of spending considered discretionary. These are payments that Congress authorizes with each budget cycle, and they accounted for 1.7 trillion. Let's see, that is defense and non-defense. That'll be tough to cut defense, but there is a ton of wasteful spending in our defense. I was a sailor in the Navy, and I've seen chairs that they would spend $5,000 on, and they would break every year, but they had to use the mil spec, and there was only one place to get this chair that was designed by the mil spec, and it was in some senior chief's, a retired senior chief's garage. He's making them himself, probably the only guy that manufactures these chairs, and he charges $5,000 because it's just one guy in a garage, and he's also doing it to make serious money. But the worst part is these chairs break every year because it's a terrible design. So the mil spec has, and then there's probably untold examples of those. But the mil-spec puts us in a situation where the government has to spend money on essentially garbage that doesn't work. And they have to spend a lot of money on it when a reasonable, high-quality chair that could replace that would be maybe a tenth or less of that cost. See, it remains unclear exactly how DOGE will be structured, and that is still true. The latter could be problematic for Musk, whose various companies have billions of dollars worth of contracts with the federal government. However, if DOGE is constituted as a wholly private enterprise whose leaders just happen to have the ear of the president, those rules would not apply. And that seems to be how it is set up right now. All right, this next article, let's see, from November 13th. So this is the day after. During the president-elect. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, Musk was quoted as saying. So shockwaves through a lot of people who are just basically waste, not doing anything constructive for our country. Trump went so far as to call DOGE the Manhattan Project, which is pretty cool because the Manhattan Project was basically a miracle that allowed us to completely dominate World War II. And then, of course, he gave a cutoff date of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. This post from Elon, all actions of DOGE will be posted online for maximum transparency, and I'm sure it's going to be posted by @Doge on X. They're also going to have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars, and you can see they're already posting a lot of stuff about all of the stupid things our government is spending money on. Is there a precedent for DOGE? DOGE has a ready precedent in former President Ronald Reagan's 82 private sector survey on cost control, otherwise known as the Grace Commission. Reagan was credited with debuting the term drain the swamp. I didn't know that. So Reagan came up with drain the swamp and assigning the commission to root out government waste. Reagan tasked the outstanding experts from the private sector with an in-depth examination of the executive branch, tasking industrialist J. Peter Grace with leading it. Okay, so that's pretty similar to what's going on with Elon and Vivek. That's worth diving into a little bit more. While the scope of DOGE hasn't yet been revealed, the Grace Commission featured over 150 prominent business leaders working as part of 36 different task forces. The work of the commission, originally planned to be 6 months, ballooned to 1 year and a half. The final report presented to Congress in January 1984 contained over 2,500 recommendations, which it estimated would save trillions of dollars over decades. Okay, so they had a year and a half in 82 whenever they did this, and then they provided a report to Congress in 84. But Elon and Vivek are talking to Trump daily. I have high hopes that they could start implementing many of the recommendations before they spend the entire year and a half coming up with ideas. I think they're going to come up with some ideas, push that to Trump and the Office of Management and Budget, and they're going to start cutting heads and cutting departments well before the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Overwhelming majority of recommendations were not implemented. However, the government debt quickly ballooned. Yeah, and I think this is different too. So this is Trump's last 4 years. He's really got nothing to lose. He's not going to be running again, so he can cut all the things, and he doesn't have to worry about re-election. Criticisms. So Musk has contracts with the government. Yeah, There it is. The man who has received more than $15 billion in government contracts over the past decade. Yeah, but those are competitive bids, and Musk is really providing a service to the government, especially considering everything was going through Boeing for space travel. And now Elon's got a bunch of that. And he's half the cost of Boeing, and he's more successful. So you can see the power of competitive bids. And Boeing has stated they're not going to accept competitive bids in the future. They can't compete when you have to be efficient and smart in business. Office of Government Efficiency is off to a great start with split leadership, 2 people to do the work of 1 person. And that's, Elizabeth Warren is a clown. This is going to be the work of thousands of people. It's going to be a tremendous effort to cut the enormous bloat of the federal government. So I have no doubt each of those guys will have thousands of people under them, and they will be seriously attacking all of the corrupt and bloated parts of our government with ideas on how to fix them. I'm sure there's going to be tons of ideas. And I think that covers everything. The last thing I've got is a link from Government Executive. I don't know how big this paper is, but from November 20th. What did Elon Musk and Vivek do to deserve this? They campaigned diligently for Donald Trump, defended his most controversial ideas, and in Musk's case, promoted Trump-supported policies with 1 million voter sweepstakes. That was kind of interesting, offering $1 million to people who signed up to vote in Pennsylvania. And then, of course, they ended up winning Pennsylvania. So, and I don't think there's anything illegal about that. He simply said, you get $1 million if you support the Constitution. So you don't necessarily have to be a Trump supporter to support the Constitution. And it's kind of insane to think that that's where we've gone as a country, that if you support the Constitution, you're a far-right extremist. It's just really insane. Let's see. Ramaswamy does not think small when cutting government. During his brief run for president, he vowed to slash 75% of federal workforce. So that is a good start, and that's in line with what Elon did when he took over Twitter. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. So Department of Education, for instance, there's a lot of redundancies, and there's terrible results from the Department of Education. As somebody who's gone to public school growing up, I can tell you it was terrible. There are so many ways to improve that. Let the states control education, and the states that are better at it, you'll see the results in the numbers, like which state has the smartest kids. Right now, basically everybody's got the same terrible education system because it's all based on the Department of Education's recommendations. We need to get away from that, and then when one state figures it out and is insanely successful, the other more intelligent states can copy that. Musk and Ramaswamy are supposed to turn their attention to improving a government whose sheer size and diverse missions makes it difficult to change. Yep, it is a massive leviathan. Nevertheless, Trump promised DOGE will complete a thorough overhaul of the federal colossus by July 4th, 2026, which is awesome. Trump says, but he rather pointedly doesn't promise that it will be. And the irony, of course, is that the Manhattan Project was an effort to spend money in pursuit of a government goal, not cut it. Well, the goal to cut government spending is an incredibly important goal. If we continue spending like drunken sailors, adding $1 trillion to our debt every 100 days, we're going to crash the economy, and then we're all going to be worse off. We're going to see massive runaway inflation like Argentina or Venezuela, and maybe it won't happen tomorrow. Maybe it'll take a few years or even a decade, but it's eventually going to crush the average American citizen. So at its inception, DOGE seems like an awful like a awful lot like a myriad of other efforts over the years to highlight allegedly wasteful government spending. Yeah, but the difference here is we've got Vivek and Elon, who are both insanely successful in their own right. A list of wasteful programs sounds less like a revolution and more like the latest in a long line of government efficiency commission and reports. Musk and Ramaswamy could save themselves some time and just compile the studies of the Clinton administration's, Bush's president's management agenda, and dozens of government accountability office reports. They could simply cut and paste. That's stupid. Who knows how captured those reports were, or outdated, or whatever. And they could certainly reference those reports, and they probably will and do. But they need to perform a comprehensive modern-day audit, find the bloat and corruption, and just root it out wholesale. True government reform efforts require hard, sustained effort and commitment from the top, and the second presidential terms where they go to die. Yeah, and they have Trump's full support, and we've also got Congress and the Senate. So I think it's very likely that we're going to see some real change. Trump got the mandate from us voters. Musk and Ramaswamy may be in for this for the long haul, and Trump may be willing to push the envelope on unilaterally slashing government. What's more likely to emerge is a strongly worded report and reliance on tried and true methods. So the government executive is just a left-leaning naysayer organization, just same propaganda that has been spewing all the way up until the election, saying that Donald Trump was going to lose handedly to Kamala. Well, turns out everybody hated Kamala, or at least majority of Americans hated Kamala, and they didn't vote for her. So it's not surprising that they're just going to lie. All right. So that covers all of the latest on DOGE and the Department of Government Efficiency. And so what do you think about DOGE? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time with more DOGE news. Have a good day.